I'd like to welcome original pain therapist, Mrs. Lorraine Pouchet. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Luna. Thank you.
Well, we have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
So first of all, my first question to you, what is original pain therapy?
It is a specialized area of psychology where we deal with the emotional distresses of the human. It's based on the concept that from conception to adolescence, we have developmental stages, 5, which culminates in the adolescent stage of development. And those 5 are prenatal, which is in the womb, infancy, toddler, preschool, school age, and then this all comes together when you're trying to find your own independent identity as an adolescent. And along the way, there are many needs that are met, that are needed to be met. For example, in the womb, all you needed to know was that I was wanted for the very one that I am.
So in the womb, I can sense whether I'm wanted or not.
Of course, because you and your mother are one. And all her feelings, her emotions, everything is passed through the blood to you. The blood is not only to cleanse and to feed and to supply oxygen. It also is a very, very intimate connection with your mother. And it is said that the relationship that you have with your mother is the foundation of all future relationships, because that is the relationship where you needed to be accepted for the very one that you are. And if you are not, you can understand a baby in the womb for 9 months going through 9 months of stress and trauma, knowing that mommy does not want me, she wish I was not here. And I've had a young mother tell me, I had wished that I had fallen down a step so that I would lose the baby. I just didn't want the baby. And that baby comes out with that knowledge. The emotions of the mother are so impactful, it is absolutely amazing. I, for myself, I like to use myself as an example because I can't get sued for that because it's me. I remember I was happily married. I've been happily married for 47 years. I'm happily married with kids and grandchildren and so on. But there would be times in my life that I would feel depressed and I would wonder why and sad for no reason. Because apart from the normal little ups and downs that you would have in relationships, my relationships with my husband and my kids were fairly all right. But I would just wake up one day and say, oh God, I feel so depressed today. Why? And I wouldn't know. And it's through doing this work that I discovered when my mother was pregnant with me, she had relocated to Trinidad from St. Lucia. My father was working shift. She knew nobody. She was very alone, very, very sad. And her feelings became part of my personality. So once I understood that, when I go into those little flunks, as they say, I would just say, hey, Mom, that's yours, it's not mine. And I'd come out of it. Because we need to understand where it comes from. Because then I may have rushed to a psychiatrist and said I'm depressed and gotten tablets to make me feel good. And it would not have dealt with the root cause, and that was the root cause. So I had to go through a process of giving her back her sadness, giving her back her own pain, and just being free to be myself.
How did you give her back?
Oh, there's a process we do in original pain therapy because it's 2 parts. It's the course, which we will talk about a little later, that we can do, but it's also about you doing your individual work on yourself. And the therapist will know how to guide you through the process. It's a process called regression therapy, which if you feel comfortable enough and one day you come to me, I'll take you back all into the womb experience and you will experience what went on with you in the womb.
Is that through hypnosis?
No,
okay.
Absolutely not. Hypnosis, we don't promote hypnosis at all because in hypnosis, you're really under the control of the person who is working with you. In regression therapy, you're in charge.
So you're a little bit more vulnerable under hypnosis?
Well, I would say so. And I would say you can be vulnerable under regression therapy, but it is your knowledge of what you're doing, and you can stop the process at any time you feel uncomfortable.
So, Mrs. Pouchet, you are saying that my personality is actually shaped and influenced heavily in the womb, and that certain connections in the brain take place in
Oh, yes. You'd be amazed at how the formation of the brain and the synapses and how everything is formed. And when those needs are not met and when the child is traumatized in the womb, there's an overflow of what we call cortisol, which is a particular type of chemical, cortisol. And it is stated in the works by Bradshaw, which is a lot of what we deal with when we deal with this original pain therapy, that cortisol will wash over the brain of a fetus like acid. So can you imagine what acid does if you just throw acid on something? So if you have cortisol constantly being produced within the womb and that baby's brain is forming, its functions are forming, everything is forming, then it's going to have some negative impact.
So let's look at criminal behavior and deviant behavior in general. So you are saying that it's possible that it's not necessarily something that is impacted as a result of my environment, necessarily physical environment, but what I went through in my mother's womb.
Both. I
So
would
it's
say it's
both
both.
nature, nurture.
It's both nature and nurture because in the mother's womb, remember that child is actually captive. He or she cannot get out. No matter what stress is put through, they are there. Though they have research that is showing now, and they are continuing with that research, that what we call spontaneous abortions, when a woman is absolutely healthy, then there's no reason for her to lose the baby, and there's no emotional distress, but she aborts. And when we say abort, she doesn't go to an abortionist. The baby comes out. They have connected spontaneous abortions to the attempt at the unborn fetus to commit suicide. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Because they're experiencing some level of heightened discomfort.
And serious trauma. And it doesn't make sense.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about what can be done to address this. I mean, it's not something easy, you know.
It's not easy, but I think that our country is approaching the solutions to criminality by dealing with the symptoms and incarcerating people. That's not going to help us. Because if we look over the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, it's getting increasingly worse. And what is getting also, we have seen an increase, is the breakdown of the family structure and family systems, okay? And that is a critical part because it's only in a safe family environment that someone can feel whole and feel healthy and be allowed to develop as they should develop. Because remember something, we are all born with gifts and talents. We are all born with gifts and talents. And the environment that we experience will determine whether we use those gifts for criminality or whether we use those gifts for the good of ourselves and mankind. And it is as simple as that. There was some years ago, there was a situation where there was a band that went to Togo to do a recording of one of their music, and a young girl was captured, was kidnapped. And the gentleman that, well, I don't know if we could call him a gentleman, but he's a gentleman. If he's in the eyes of God, he was created. He eventually, he was captured and so on. But what we found out, I was called up to help out because there was a lot of trauma. But what we found out about this person is that brilliant, 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 but a criminal mind. He was excellent at chess, but he used his intelligence for criminality because of the experiences that he had had. He had been brutalized as a child. And when we go back into the history of our criminals, we begin to understand that you're not born a criminal. You were not created a criminal. There is a reason why you become criminal and you have criminal tendencies. And there's a saying in psychology that you do unto society what society has done to you.
Hurting people hurt people.
Hurting people hurt people. Okay? So I believe that we need to start finding solutions by working with family systems, by working with young people, very young people, from as early as primary school, even before that if we can, letting them understand their own humanness, who they are, the beautiful creation that they are, and also when young people are about to get married and start to have children, understanding that they are going to make or break the future of that child by the way they interact with each other and they interact within the family system. Do they create an enabling environment where this child can grow and become the very one that he or she was created to, giving them an opportunity to manifest their gifts and talents? I have 4 kids. All 4 are absolutely different to each other. Yeah. And if I didn't understand that and I tried to put everybody in a mold and work with them in that light, then we would have had some problems, you know. So that we need to understand that each of us, if we are unique, who are we compared to? How many times have you heard, why you can't be more like your sister? Why you can't be more like your brother? Why you can't be more like this person? I'm not that person. I am me. And that's why we all have our own unique names.
You know, it's interesting because almost every day on this program, we talk about the importance of the family unit and that structure, even marriage. We reach out to Tobago. We spoke recently to Pastor Joseph and so many others. And up to yesterday, we had someone here talking about the importance of, you know, having good role models in society and that breakdown in the family structure and how crucial it is, even marriage counselors and even school counselors.
We don't have enough school counselors. We don't. We have children who are in pain and hurting with nowhere to go, except the peer group, which sometimes is involved in criminality. So we really do need that. But, you know, we also need to look at, we talk about the family and what the mommy and daddy could do, but what do we as a society, what do we need to do? When we elect people into government, we elect them into government because we want them to ensure the best interest for every citizen. So that means that we also have to look at the social systems and the social structures. We can't be having people living in poverty that you have 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 people living in a room. How can that be healthy and wholesome? Children seeing things they should not see, hearing things they should not hear. The whole poverty, there needs to be a safety net for poverty, for being able to help people not to eat a food or the dependency syndrome, but to have some sort of system in place where we can help people through the difficult patches whilst training them to become self-sufficient and independent. We don't have those kinds of programs. We have make-work programs. We have programs that create a dependency syndrome. We have programs that ensure that I get a vote every 4 to 5 years, and that's wrong.
The thing is, a lot of persons are not really aware of the importance of these, well, the connections that actually take place in the womb. They believe that it's just a societal thing. And once you're born, everything else, your personality is shaped and developed. So I think it's an issue. It could definitely be an issue.
From the womb. In fact, from the moment, the second of conception, if I was conceived by rape,
so that trauma that the mother experiences.
I get it. Everything is passed on. The memories in our cells. There's nothing that has happened to you in your life that is gone. Through regression, we can access every single memory. We operate at 3 levels of consciousness. The conscious, the subconscious, which is I can recall something and I can say to you, you know, last year this happened. And then there's the unconscious, that place where we bury things that we don't want to crowd our mind and to cause us not to be able to function normally. And when I say function normally, I mean get up in the morning, brush your teeth, have breakfast, get dressed, go to work. That's what we call normal. But what is really normal? If we look at what a human being is supposed to be able to express and be, that's just a system that we are in. We need to understand what is normal. So therefore, we bury these things so that we can operate in this normal sphere. But the memories are still there. I remember a lady came from Barbados to see me because her kids had done the course and they felt it would help her. She had an awful relationship with her husband and her son. Did not understand where it came from. Knew she was supposed to love them. And she felt that, okay, she was 70-something. And I said, your mom's coming at 70-something. She says, yes, she wants to die in peace. She wants to understand where all this is coming from. So we did the work and we did the regression. And in the regression, a memory that was in her unconscious that had controlled her behavior for all her life surfaced. When she was 6 years old, her father raped her. That memory was not in her consciousness at all. And therefore, her hatred, her anger to her husband and her son was based on that.
Okay.
You understand?
I would just like to ask if we can have a double of this segment because we have so much more to talk about. Yes, we can. Okay, great. So we have permission.
Okay.
I think we have just 1 minute before we close the very first segment, and then we'll go to a break and we'll come back. I'd like to talk a little bit about what you touched on, that the impact that trauma can have on the brain, even if it's in the subconscious, and how it comes back up. Because I remember some years ago on the SAD program, we used to have features and a lot of psychologists would come on the program. We talk about crime and that kind of thing. And I remember talking to one of the psychologists and she mentioned to me that the brain actually, in its defense to try to eliminate or remove that memory of the trauma, it shrinks. The memory shrinks.
Actually, it's quite interesting because during the course, we're going to be doing a course which starts tomorrow, which I know you will help me promote. We show a slide where a brain of a 3-year-old, normal 3-year-old, a scan of it, and the name of a traumatized 3-year-old.
So
and one was a lot smaller than the other one because it shrinks. It shrinks in an effort to protect.
Yes.
And therefore, when it shrinks,
it's like a defense mechanism.
Yes, but we're losing the ability to learn. We're losing the cognitive behavior. We're losing a lot of stuff inside of there.
So we were talking a little bit about the womb and those connections that take place in the womb. When I think, okay, well, I'm born into society and the circumstances around me would shape who I am, it's so much more than that.
It is. I just want to show you this.
Yes.
And perhaps if you want, you can show it to the camera. So that little figure in the center is a male, but it could be you. We have named it teenager, which is the in-between stage between childhood and adulthood. Okay, so let's say this is a little teenager and we see them displaying certain types of behavior that we don't understand and seem totally different to how they were as children. On the right side of that young man is mommy and daddy. And they're all in love because there's a heart between them. But if you look into their bodies, you will see a little sort of a drawing that depicts where on the spectrum from conception to school age was their original pain. Were they hurt and they are frozen in that state of development? It's based on the inner child theory. We all have this inner child. So mommy has a little toddler, a little prenatal in the womb, embryo, and the daddy has a little toddler. So we see these two people there and we figure, hey, they are adults. No, they're not. If they're frozen in the stage of development and they have not had their needs met and therefore their original pain is at that stage of development, that's who is mothering and fathering this child. Children are mothering and fathering this child. I don't know if you've ever seen adults.
Yes, and they're stuck. They're stuck in that. Yes, I've
I don't know if you've ever seen adults having an argument and then you look at them and you say, my God, they're throwing a tantrum.
Yes.
You know?
They're stuck in that age.
Right. So in his body now are these stages. So you have prenatal in the womb, infancy, toddler, preschool, school age, and then there's the adolescence. Yeah. And on this side, you see this building which has School Street and Church Street. So this young man is the sum total of all of this. The genetics passed on by his parents, the experiences in the family system, the experiences at school, which is one of the most traumatic experiences that our young people could go through.
In school.
The education system is the worst in this country. I all know, because we teach them to learn by rote and regurgitate. There's no critical thinking. There's no critical thinking taking place.
Syllabus,
and then, of course, we have the religious or church system. And we in Trinidad and Tobago cannot understand about suicide bombers. But they don't understand how we can't be suicide bombers. So all of those things form who we are, the culture, the society, the family, the school, everything that we experience. Okay? And as we grow, we have needs. So in the womb, as I told you, we need to be accepted for the very one, wanted for the very one that we are. When you are born now, you need to be accepted and loved for exactly who you are.
And I am able to sense whether or not I am accepted.
That's right.
In the womb.
That's right. Of course you are. And as you grow as a little toddler, you need to learn how to say no. Many times little toddlers telling us, no. Don't say no, you don't say no to others. But we want them to say no to drugs later on. They need to know that they have autonomy over themselves and they can say no and they can say yes and they will still be loved and accepted. Okay? And then, of course, you have the preschool, which is starting to relate to society, understanding your first awareness of your sexuality, that I am male and she's female, we are different, okay? And then, of course, school age, where it is you now learning to read and to write and to be able to do the things at school. That school age is from 6 to about 11, okay? And then the young adolescent is the one that is building they are building their behaviors and their personality on all these different experiences. And therefore, as an adolescent now, I am between this childhood thing and adulthood. I have concerns, worries. Will I get a job? Will I find somebody to love me? Will I have a family? How will I support myself? And they have all these normal issues going. They say adolescence is the most traumatic phase of the human life cycle. And we can see why, because it is the beginning of a separation. I'm going to leave that family system and form my own. My own will be based on what I learned from the previous. And this is why they say we hand down from generation to generation all these negative behaviors. And we also hand down through the genes things like a predisposition to criminal behavior or alcoholism and that type of thing.
So all these challenges, or the majority of these challenges, because you hear a lot of the times people, they go through things like anxiety, excessive fear and that kind of thing. So all these things could definitely be traced back to the womb.
Yes, I'll give you one more example about the womb. This young woman came to me. She was in a job that she didn't really seem to like. It was stationary in an office, marine environment, and she wanted to be adventurous and to travel. And what happened was that, I know we have to wrap up. What happened was that...
I'm begging, I'm actually bargaining for time.
She was frozen with fear. She was frozen with fear. And she didn't understand where this fear was coming. She couldn't make choices in her life. And when we did the regression, her mother was extremely fearful when she was pregnant with her. So once we were able to access that and release it, then she was able to now think about different things that she could do with her life. And I remember 6 months after, hearing this thing as I was dressing on TV about this crew up in the Arctic that is doing research and so on. And there's one female on board, and she's from Trinidad. Oh, I stepped back in front of the TV, and there was my girl up in the Arctic doing research. And I went, yes, she's free to do what she wants to do. And that is what original pain therapy is about. It helps you to free yourself from whatever is holding you bondage that you're not even aware of, that is inhibiting your ability to become the best person that you were created to be, to remove all obstacles so that you can achieve and do self-destruct or self-sabotage, as they say.
But is it ongoing? Because I mean, to address such crucial issues that are so deep inside.
No, you see, original pain therapy is based on John Bradshaw's work. From infancy up is John Bradshaw, prenatal, Sister Helena Profero, and I came up with that, working with people like Dr. Bratt and so on, and understanding the impact,
we interviewed him right here.
The impact on the womb and so on, and when you're in the womb. And what was it called? Let's go back to the question. I got sidetracked there.
Yeah, so I was asking, how easy is it?
It is easy, because once you are willing, the therapist will guide you through the process of the regression, and you will connect, and we will help you to heal and replace the negative behavior with positive behavior. But it's something that has to come from within. Emotions is energy in motion. We are made up of energy. So we have to access the negative energy and almost purge it out of us, so that we can replace that with positive energy.
So how many workshops?
Well, we do workshops all through the year. As a matter of fact, in April, I'm going to St. Lucia to start it there. They're very excited about it.
But we have it here as well, right?
Yeah, we're doing it here. Okay. So on tomorrow, we start from the 17th of February to the 17th of March, Saturday mornings, 9 to 12, 5 Saturdays. And what we will be doing from 9 to 12, we go through each stage of development. And within the workshops, it's experiential. This is about your journey for self-development and healing. Very timely in a Lenten period when you want to sit back and reflect on yourself. And each stage of development, we work with group work, individual work, videos, and so on. And through that process of these workshops, people start to access their pain within the workshop. And once they connect, then they can make an appointment to see the therapist privately after to deal with their own personal issues, which they may not want to reveal within the workshop. But what I will tell you, for example, I always ask the question, I say to them, 1 in every 3 to 4 women will be sexually abused by the time they reach the age of 18. I am one. Who are the rest inside of here? And when I started this course 30 years ago, nobody would put up their hand because they would be ashamed. Yeah. Now, you will be shocked at how many people put up their hand. And some of them, it is for the first time that they are saying, this has happened to me.
And original pain therapy, where is it taught? How do I train to become an original? I know you said they only
when you come to do the first thing we tell you is that you need to do your workshop, because you need to work on yourself.
That's the first step, yes.
You need to work on yourself.
Before you can address other people's issues.
And then once you have shown the interest and commitment, because a lot of people tell us they want to do it, but they're not committed to the process.
So you need to have a degree in psychology?
You should have at least a diploma in psychology. At least a diploma. It's always better to have a degree, but at least a diploma.
Or behavioral science, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And I'm getting a sense that you're interested. Well, we'll grab you, don't worry.
I'll forward with that MBA. I was like, no, I'm not going to continue.
Yeah, and you go through a period of internship. There'll be classroom environment studies, but there also has to be an internship where you're working with one of the original pain therapists. So I'm encouraging people to come out tomorrow morning, 17th of February. We are at the TTCSI building at 18 O'Connor Street. You have my numbers. If you all could put it up on the thing, would be nice.
7532775. That's 7532775.
And it's for 18 years and over, because we did a youth one recently, so this one is for the adults, 18 years and over, and the cost is $600 TT.
It's a pleasure chatting with you, Mrs. Pouchet, and I promise you will be on this program again if I can help it for you to come here every week, because this is so absolutely critical.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We take